Trinity. I want to spend just a little bit of time talking about chapters 1 through 5 of Silas Marner. I hope you're enjoying the book. I have 3 points that I want to just kind of jump right into. It's more about the theme of the book. Hopefully you're following the story. And you saw in chapter 1 through 5, we hear a little bit about Silas Marner's past. We hear about how he is in Ravello. He's a weaver. He's earned a lot of money. He's hoarded that money over the years. And then in chapter 5, we see him get it. In chapter 4, actually, we see him lose it. It gets stolen. And in chapter 5, he discovers the theft. We also are introduced to the Cass family, which is kind of an interesting little other plot going on. And that's, we know that there's two brothers, Godfrey Cass and Dunstan Cass. Godfrey is engaged to be married. Well, not really engaged to be married, but we think he's, hopefully going to be married at some point to a woman named Nancy. But we also find out that he has a secret wife already, and that his brother Dunstan knows about this. And this is actually going to get into a lot of problems. So there's 3 kind of themes that I want to address or talk about. And the first is, let's look at Silas Marner when he was in Lantern Yard. This is explained in chapter 1. And essentially what happened is, a long time ago, he lived in a place called Lantern Yard, and he was, he had one of those catatonic moments where he kind of was asleep or something. He was taking care of, or taking watch of a deacon who was passing away, and some church money goes missing. Silas is eventually accused of the theft and is found guilty of the theft by kind of the weirdest way, and that is that they drew lots. They kind of flipped a coin to see, did you do it or not? So Silas is devastated by this. He didn't steal the money. It's pretty clear. And as we kind of go through in the end of chapter, at that chapter, we see that Silas, who had been engaged, winds up losing his fiancée to his roommate. His roommate's name is William Dane, and I think we're led to believe pretty clearly that William Dane set up Silas Marner for the theft. Silas, there was a knife that was found, and Silas said, I know where that was, you borrowed it. William Dane then winds up being engaged to Silas's old fiancée, so kind of creepy. Now, the theme part, though, that's all the plot. The theme is like, we're expected to ask ourselves, how do we react to an injustice? And in Silas's case, he does a few things. He becomes completely reclusive. He loses his church. He loses his faith. He moves away. He loses his home and everything, and he becomes a total recluse. And in that way, he becomes what we discussed last time. He becomes that character that's kind of an oddball. He's a weaver, and we don't understand him. And he's a subject of kind of suspicion and whatnot. And he just kind of removes himself from society. So, semi-spoiler alert, you're not really supposed to do that. Hopefully you have a better reaction to justice, to an injustice. Ironically, later in this section, in chapter 4, Silas has his money stolen. He has hoarded all this gold and it's stolen. And this is, of course, another injustice. It's unjust for somebody to steal your stuff. So Silas has all his gold stolen, and ironically, it's going to kind of bring him back into the society. He is, somewhat reluctantly, but you'll see in the next several chapters, the village of Ravello is really kind of fascinated with what happened, who stole Silas's money, and they're going to visit him, and they're going to encourage him to go to church, and they're going to talk to him. They don't really offer him any money to replace it, but they do what they can to kind of help. And it's kind of ironic that this second injustice brings him back in to society. But I think one of the things that George Eliot is really asking us to wonder about is, when there's an injustice, what is our reaction? How are we supposed to react? And through the example of Silas Marner, I think you're supposed to see that becoming a recluse and moving out of society is not really the way. Second big theme is sin. Godfrey Cass, that I mentioned a second ago, he's apparently interested in Nancy Lammeter. There's hope in the future they're going to be married, but the secret is that he has already a secret wife. He has a wife somewhere else. And more crucially, his brother Dunstan knows. Now, we know that sin is a horrible thing. It ruins our relationship with God. It wears on us. And George Eliot is actually very specific about this towards the end of chapter 3. She actually writes, "The yoke a man creates for himself by wrongdoing will breed hate in the kindliest nature. And the good-humored, affectionate-hearted Godfrey Cast was fast becoming a bitter man, visited by cruel wishes that seemed to enter and depart and enter again, like demons who had found him in a ready garnished home." So this secret wife that he has, at some points, Godfrey is hoping that she'll die. Godfrey is hoping that, she'll never come back. He doesn't want anybody to know about this. But of course, because Dunstan does know about it already, Dunstan has a power over Godfrey. I think we're meant to see that when we sin, we are giving control of ourselves to other people, to the people that know about our sin. Think about this. When you have done something wrong, if somebody else knew about it, they have, in a sense, kind of a power or a control over you. Dunstan uses this. He wields it to get money from Godfrey that was supposed to go to his father. He uses it to convince Godfrey to let him sell his horse. Then he winds up killing the horse. And the whole time, Dunstan, he doesn't care. Because he also knows that Godfrey can't really do anything. Godfrey is in a position of weakness. And it's all brought about by this sin, by this secret wife. If you're kind of wondering, I don't understand, secret wife. Imagine today, in today's world, it would be equivalent to somebody having an affair. If somebody commits adultery, they are in a position of great weakness, because with the people that know about it. So, and then last, there's only one other thing I want to mention that's kind of an interesting little point, and it's just I mentioned last time that we read literature to kind of see about these little kind of parts of our lives, parts of things that we're supposed to learn about life in general. And Eliot, at the beginning of chapter 5, talks about partly why Silas Marner was able to be robbed. Silas had left his house. He didn't think anything of it. He had left things unlocked. He was just going out for a minute. And he didn't really worry about it. Why didn't he worry about it? Because, nothing usually happens. And she actually mentions this. The lapse of time during which a given event has not happened is, in this logic of habit, constantly alleged as a reason why the event should never happen. In other words, I've left the door unlocked before and nothing happened, so I'm going to leave it unlocked this time and nothing will happen. I've left it unlocked a whole bunch of times and nothing happened, so why would it happen this time? George Eliot actually goes on and says, even when the lapse of time is precisely the added condition which makes the event imminent. Today we sometimes talk about, things being due. June 1st is the beginning of the hurricane season. And you will hear weather prognosticators talk about, it's been a while since there's been a hurricane here or there, and maybe they're due for a hurricane. We get kind of conditioned to feel like, this is, it's not going to happen because it hasn't happened before. Think about a year ago in Temple, we had 2 tornadoes. Well, when was the last time we had a tornado? We weren't worried about it. Tornadoes don't happen here because they've never happened here. George Eliot says, no, that's precisely why you should worry. You're due. Silas Marner leaves his house, leaves it unlocked, with the comfort that he's done this before. Why would anything go wrong this time? And of course, that's exactly when Dunstan Cass comes in and steals his gold. Almost a reminder to always be on your guard. Don't assume that something's not going to happen because it's never happened. That's exactly, George Eliot kind of says, no, that's exactly the condition by which something might actually happen. I hope you're enjoying the book. As you go through the next 5 chapters, I will mention one thing about chapter 6 that's kind of odd. Chapter 6 there is humor in the book, and chapter 6 is kind of funny. You're going to go into the Rainbow. That's the pub, the local pub, and you're going to see just kind of the conversation that's going on. It has almost nothing to do with the book other than you get to know a little bit about the nature of the village and the community. Silas will appear at the rainbow at the beginning of chapter 7, and he's going to kind of walk in on the conversation. They're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. They're going to talk about cows. They're going to talk about whether or not ghosts exist. And then, it's just kind of this conversation you're meant to kind of see. So it's can be kind of a challenging chapter because where's the story? Well, it's not there really. It's just kind of an extra little chapter. But it's kind of funny listening to these farmers argue about, especially don't tell me that cow is not so and so's cow and all this. I mean, it's you're meant to kind of see that this is you're just eavesdropping on this kind of fun conversation. So I hope you're enjoying the book. Give the next 5 chapters a chance, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.